color jog is a nuisance. It keeps the stripes misaligned and it completely messes up the stranded colorwork patterns. See, this element looks very different than the elements in the same round simply because it happens to be at the beginning of the round. I explain why it happens in an ebook that you will find at 10roseday.com/jogless-colorwork. In this tutorial, we'll take a look at the method that keeps the jog at bay, keeps the stripes aligned, and keeps the stranded colorwork patterns intact. Here's how it works. When we get to the last stitch of the round, see, this is my beginning of the round and I stop when I get to the last stitch. We insert the tip of the right needle into that stitch from left to right, just as we normally do when we knit a stitch. And then we pick a strand in a color that we are supposed to use to work this last stitch. In my case, it's going to be golden color. So I take that strand and then I use it to wrap the tip of the right needle, but in a different way. Instead of going from the bottom up, I wrap it from the top to the left and to the bottom of the needle. So if you hold yarn in your right hand, you will do it like this. If you hold yarn in your left hand, you will do it like this. And then we pull this wrap through the stitch, forming a nice knitted stitch, and slip the original stitch off the left needle. The biggest drawback of this method is the extra yarn. So we have to be careful not to make the stitch too loose. And the first step we do to prevent that looseness is to pull the yarn right now after we form this last stitch to minimize the gap between the last stitch and the stitch next to it. So we pull the yarn, simply pull it. Then we look for the top of the stitch that is below the first stitch of the round. So this is the first stitch of the round. This is the stitch below it. And we are looking for the top part of that stitch. And that strand is easy to find. All we need to do is look at to the wrong side of the fabric. And that strand would be right over here. See, it's at the bottom of the stitch. So we go into that strand from front to back, like this. Then we use the strand in the same color as the last stitch, wrap the tip of the right needle with this yarn the usual way, no more unusual wrapping, and pull this wrap through that top part of the stitch, forming a new stitch. Yes, I know, we just added a new stitch to the work and that's not good, but this stitch is temporary. We are gonna use it to close the round. That's what makes it so nice and neat. We simply close the round the same way as crocheters do when they close the round using a slip stitch. So we're kind of borrowing this method and using it in knitting to close the round and avoid the jog. We do it by binding off one stitch. We insert the tip of the left needle into the second stitch on the right needle, pass it over just the usual way as we bind off stitches, and off the needle. Now the stitch count is back to normal, but we have this loose stitch over here and we need to tighten it. So we simply pull the yarn again to tighten that bound off stitch. And that's it. The round is closed. Now we can start a new round knowing that we will get no jog. These stitches that were bound off, they form an interesting kind of column of stitches that look a lot like twisted stitches. But we can see it only when we really inspect the project closely. But from afar, or for somebody who doesn't know what they're looking for, this chain of stitches, this column of stitches, blends in with the fabric really nicely. So it doesn't affect the texture of the fabric at all. It doesn't have any embossed effect. See, it looks exactly the same as the rest of the fabric. And all we need to do is repeat these 5 steps in every round of the stranded color work and every time we close a stripe. So in every last round of every stripe, because this method closes the round. So whenever you want to even out the round, to close the stripe, that's what you do, these 5 steps. If you'd rather have them described in a detailed photo tutorial, you will find those instructions in an ebook at tenroseday.com/jogless-colorwork. If you find this tutorial helpful, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to be notified every time I publish a new video. Happy knitting, my friend. I'll talk to you in the next tutorial.